What's up, everybody? Today I have another video for you about Gambit. Yeah, I know. Well, today this is a follow-up to my competitive endgame Gambit game mode that I had a few weeks ago. I'm going to put a card up for that in case you haven't seen it, but today I'm talking specifically about the reworked roles that I made for it. And the groundwork for how this works is each role has 3 subtypes. And each subtype has 4 perks, but you do not have to pick one complete subtype, just to linear all 4 of those perks. No, you can mix and match between them, and I'll get into that a little bit more soon. But one mechanic I would introduce is a way to consume motes, not bank them, consume them for abilities. And these are mostly your capstone abilities, not all of them have it, but let's say you want to do something spectacular. Well, I would say on controller it'd be probably hold the melee button. PC could of course change the keybind, but you take motes, you consume them, they aren't banked, but you do something with them according to your role. And I'll get more into those later. But let's just start with the Sentry and how I would change it. First, let's identify the 3 subtypes of what a Sentry should do. In my opinion, it should be the anti-invader, so protecting your team from invaders and giving them information as to where the invader would be. Then you have the guy defending the bank against blockers. That's another subtype to protect the bank. And then I think the 3rd subtype would be kind of to lead the team during the primeval phase, whether that's doing more damage, whether it's protecting your team, whatever it is taking charge during the primeval phase. Okay, to start off with, my anti-invader, which is the Hound. Your level 1 perk, you see invader tracks. If you play Rainbow Six Siege, think Jackal. Or if you've played Apex, think Bloodhound. How Bloodhound's passive lets you see footprints and things like that. At level 2, you can mark invaders that you've damaged for 3 seconds. This applies to your entire team. It gives the X wall hacks, not the true sight. And it just helps you and your team know where the invader is. At level 3, you have the invader spawn called out to you, whether that's a text message saying invader at the gulch, or Drifter has a voice line saying, hey brother, look out, invader at the gulch, or whatever. It just tells you where the invader is so that you know where to look for them. And then at level 4, we get one of those fancy little consume mote perks. And what it is for 5 seconds, you get true sight for yourself and your allies for 5 seconds for 10 motes. Those motes could have been a captain or a medium blocker, but you're protecting yourself and your team from the invader. And this may promote keeping motes past the collection phase. Maybe you can't do it in the primeval phase. I'm not sure exactly how it would work, as it might change the balance of the game having motes during the primeval phase. But who's to say, really? But that's about it for the Hound or the anti-invader. Let's get into my idea for the anti-blocker or locksmith. With this, you are basically human Drano. So your perks follow that up. We have where I misspelled in the first slot. Kills grant additional damage to Taken. Whether you kill Taken or not Taken, your kills give a small stacking buff, probably capping out at 33% to Taken for a limited amount of time. This helps you within both the primeval phase and collection phase for clearing blockers or for just doing a little extra damage to the primeval. At level 2, standing on the bank prevents siphoning. Say the other team banks 2 or 4 blockers at once. You can stand on the bank and they're not going to siphon. There's still a bunch of blockers there, so if they kill you, they can keep siphoning. But while you're there, they're not siphoning from you. At level 3, you can perform finishers on large blockers, and they have a chance of spawning heavy ammo. And I want to note, just in case you haven't seen the other video, heavy ammo does not spawn from mobs. It only spawns from crates in this mode. So the ability to make it off of finishers and not use an exotic is pretty nice. So keep that one in mind. And at level 4, the locksmith can banish blockers to the other team's bank for 10 motes. This one can honestly go up to 15 and probably still be where it is and still be strong. Basically, say they've dumped a bunch of blockers on your side. You can consume motes while you're standing on top of the bank, and it will send them over to the other side. Probably with half health, just to keep it a little more fair, but it's strong nonetheless. And finally, to cap off our sentries, we have the commander, or the primeval, the leader of the group, kind of. Basically, at level 1, you get stomp resistance. Less knockback, less damage from the primeval stomp mechanic, which is helpful if you're running a sword, a shotgun. There's a lot of things it helps you with. It does not apply to your team, sadly, only to you. But at level 2, you get even more help during the primeval phase when you're using close range weapons. Standing near the bank will heal you. This is also very helpful against the blockers. You get healed for staying near the bank, so while you're clearing out blockers, you're getting a small amount of health every second. It's nothing massive, it's probably not to the degree of a healing rift. It's just a little bit of health coming in constantly while you're standing on the bank. At level 3, killing Taken has a chance to increase your damage. And this would not be a permanent buff, but it'd be a much longer lasting buff than the Locksmith's level 1 perk, and it would be a higher damage buff. I think it could cap at 40%, which seems big, but with a time duration and a chance of dropping from killing Taken, I think it's fine. And then at level 4, you can add 1 stack of Envoy Slayer when killing an invader before anyone dies. This perk is very high risk, high reward. If you're confident in your abilities with a sniper, linear fusion, or a scout rifle, you can take out the invader fast enough before anyone dies, giving you a stack of Primeval Slayer. But if the invader's good enough, they'll get the kill before you can even get to them. So it is high risk, high reward. If you succeed, you get a massive buff. If you don't, well, it really doesn't help you at all. But remember, with my idea, you aren't locked to only the Hound, the Locksmith, or the Commander. You get to pick and choose what you want from each. So let's get into that right about now. Alright, let's say that I want to be... I want to keep the bank clean, of course, but I'm more focused on making sure the invader doesn't hurt my team, and I also want to help my team DPS the boss faster. So what I can do is I can take the level 1 Locksmith, which is kills grant additional damage to Taken, which is a great perk. And then let's say level 2, I take standing near the bank heals you from the commander. Okay, that means I can stand on the bank and I'll get healed while I clear from blockers, or during the primeval phase, I maybe want to use a shotgun, slug shotgun, something a little more close range. Okay, maybe level 3, I take the Hound's invader spawn is called out to you. So I can look with a scout rifle at wherever it's called out that they are, and I can take them out. Okay, and level 4, maybe I take the commanders, add a stack of Envoy Slayer when you kill an invader before anyone dies, helping my team in the primeval phase throughout the whole match. It's kind of a gamble on that one, but if I can do it, it's highly rewarding. So that's maybe what I'd pick if I was playing Sentry. Next up, we have the Collector, which is a little bit harder to find different jobs for, but rather I'm gonna do different ways that you collect motes. The first one is the Fat Cat, and they're gonna hold on to the most motes and focus purely on collecting them. Then we have the Con Artist, who finds different ways to collect motes and do different things with those motes. And the Rogue, who buffs themselves with the more motes they hold. Okay, starting off with the Fat Cat. At level 1, if you die with motes, you keep 20% of them. If you have 5 motes, you'll keep 1. 10 motes, you'll keep 2. 15 motes, you'll keep 3. This is to make death less punishing, but also keeping it from being just something that you can just do and not care about. It still is not optimal to die, but it's not as bad anymore. At level 2, you get a 5-point overshield for every mote you pick up, and this doesn't regenerate, it's just Whisper of Rhyme. Once it's shot off, it's shot off. And then at level 3, the Fat Cat gets a way to get more motes. Every mote, you get 1 mote for every 10 motes your allies collect. Not you, your allies. But at level 4, you can hold 20 motes. And if you bank it, you get a giant ogre blocker. This could also be the giant phalanx that was in Prime, but I'm thinking ogre gives more diversity to our range of blockers. You're going to notice some similarities between this tree and the other trees, which I'm about to get into. So next we have the Con Artist Collector. At level 1, Taken drop 1 mote on death. So the blockers will drop motes. Even during the Primeval phase, ads will drop motes. And there are things you could do with motes as the Con Artist that you can't as the others. So at level 2, picking up a mote sends a small concussive blast. It'll do a small amount of damage, but it's mainly to knock enemies away from you. So if you're being swarmed, it'll quickly stun them and get them away from you, which is helpful. At level 3, you get 1 mote for every 5 motes the enemy team drops. So say your Invader invades and kills someone with 15 motes. You'd get 3 motes because of that. It's just kind of synergy for you and your Invader, or you and blockers. Any way to kill enemies is a way to help you and your team. And at level 4, the Con Artist can consume 5 motes in order to increase their sprint speed, jump height, and jump distance for 5 seconds. That costs 5 motes. It could be a longer duration even, but those are just spitballed numbers. So a brief duration for 5 motes, and you can run faster, jump higher, jump longer. It's a pretty nice trade-off. But let's get into the final tree of the collector, the Rogue. At level 1, motes picked up have a small chance to give a second mote. And I'm talking small, it's probably a 1% chance. You might see it once or twice per game. It's not going to come into effect often, but when it does, it is extremely helpful. At level 2, you gain a 1% damage buff for every 2 motes you hold. So if you take the Fat Cat's Capstone perk, it is a 10% damage buff, and I do imagine this damage buff stacking with other damage buffs. So it is an extra 10% that you get to keep as long as you have motes on you. At level 3, the Rogue gets 2 motes for every 7 motes drained from the enemy. So the more often you bank, the more blockers there are, the more blockers there are, the more that's siphoned, and every 7 motes siphoned, you gain 2 in your inventory. But your capstone as a rogue is that you can bank from anywhere and even through blockers on your bank, and even during the Primeval phase. This will cost 5 motes, so at most you could do a medium blocker. The reason you might want to bank during the Primeval phase is to maybe send a goblin to them during their Primeval phase and hope that it makes theirs immune. There are applications to it. Of course, if the bank is flooded by blockers, you can always send over a blocker to the other side to shut them down too, so you can slow down how many they're sending over. You may notice that among the level 2 and level 3 perks, there are similarities, being that level 2s are buffs from picking up motes, and level 3 is ways to get more motes, and I did this so that you can't just slap on a bunch of the level 3s in order to just passively gain a bunch of motes and just snowball the game that way. Same with level 2, you can't get the concussive blast, you can't get the overshield on top of the damage buff. I planned that out strategically just because, yes, those would be very strong builds and possibly fun playstyles, but being able to do all that at once might be a little too strong, we must admit. If this was in the game today and I were playing Collector, I would probably go with the Con Artist level 1, where Taken can drop a mote on death, so that I work in tandem with my Sentry to get more motes, while also taking up the Rogue's level 2 where I gain a damage buff for every 2 motes I hold. That way I have a passive damage buff. And then level 3 and 4 I would have to go with Fat Cat, so I get a mote every 10 my allies collect, so that I'm passively getting more motes, probably from my Reaper who is just killing enemies. And then the level 4 I get 20 mote blockers, so that I can have a 10% damage buff at all times, plus that giant blocker is sometimes helpful. So that's probably what I would build for the Collector, and then let's get into the Reaper. Reaper has 2 main jobs in my view. Of course, ad clearing for the Collector to pick up motes is one of their main jobs, but also don't forget they have an important job in clearing out high value targets and yellow bars, mini bosses. So that's gonna be the 2 focuses between these 3 different roles. 2 of them focus on ad clearing in different ways, and then 1 focused on killing your high value targets. And let's get into those options. So to start off with, on the Reaper, we have our first sub-role called the Slayer. The Slayer focuses on their weapons and abilities. First off, we have precision kills increase your handling stability and reload speed. That would be 3 seconds, it stacks 3 times. Those numbers could be adjusted, but that's a pretty nice buff just for getting a precision kill. And then their level 2 ability, multi-kills have a chance to drop special ammo. Of course kills normally do, but say you kill like 5 enemies in the span of 3 seconds, yeah, you're gonna get more special ammo for that, meaning you keep chaining special ammo. And then at level 3, grenade kills increase weapon damage. Keep in mind, this is what Adrenaline Junkie does, but Adrenaline Junkie is a weapon buff. This is a global buff, meaning the 2 would stack. So your grenade kills give you more weapon damage than normal Adrenaline Junkie. But next up, we have our capstone for the Slayer, which sends out chain lightning through your body. Each enemy it kills gives you a small amount of ability energy. This is for all your abilities. Grenade, melee, class, and super all get energy for all your kills. It'd probably be comparable to Dune Marcher, and maybe be 2 pulses for every 10 motes. So it's a pretty nice way to clear out enemies if you need to do it. And it does a decent amount of damage and gives you ability energy back. It's just nice. Next up on the Reaper, we have the Butcher, which is focused on yellow bars and high value targets. Starting off with, damaging those yellow bars marks them for your team. That also includes the high value targets. And at second level, if you perform finishers on mini bosses or high value targets, it refills your special ammo. Meaning that if it's holstered and out of ammo, it will be refilled and you will get some special ammo after the finisher. And then for level 3, your weapon kills increase your melee damage. That stacks up to 5 times and it lasts for 5 seconds. So if you see a high value target and say you're running Winter's Guile or something along those lines and 1-2 punch on a shotgun, you could end up probably 1 to 2 hitting a high value target. You could do a lot of damage. But the capstone for the Butcher is for 7 seconds. Enemies have a chance to drop extra motes. That costs 10 motes to proc, but for 7 seconds, if you have the ability to kill a lot of enemies very quickly, you could end up getting massive profits off of that. It's just a risky play. And lastly, for the Reaper, we have the Devastator, which is more focused on blast damage and explosions. Let me explain. So level 1, if you match the shield element of an enemy, you get chain reaction on all your weapons for 3 seconds after you pop that shield. And that's every weapon. It doesn't have to be a precision kill, but it will proc it, and it will stack, of course, with Firefly, Dragonfly, and chain reaction, just like other things in the game do. Now, the level 2 Devastator ability is when you match the shield element, it has a chance, a small chance, to spawn special ammo, which is really nice. Level 3, the Devastator can slide into an enemy. This plants a charge on them and throws them back. The charge will go off when they hit a wall, another enemy, and it has a 15-second cooldown to do that ability. Now, at level 4, the Devastator sends a pulse of debuffing energy. It'd be a 30% or 33% debuff, so they take more damage for 5 seconds, and that costs 10 motes to do. That would be great for Primeval phase, in my opinion. And much like the Collector, there are some similarities in some of these columns. And the reason that they're all in the same level is so that you can't stack these. It'd be a great playstyle together, but it might be a little too strong, and that's just kind of how I feel about it. But let's get into what I would run as a Reaper with this. And so, for the Reaper, I would probably pick the level 1 and 2 from Devastator, the level 3 from the Slayer, and then probably the level 4 from the Devastator again. I think that's just a good mix of how you get special ammo, and a good buff and chain reaction, and grenade kills give you weapon damage, which is also great, and then a buffing of a debuff pulse, which is great to kill ads with to collect more motes, or during the Primeval phase, or even, I guess, the Invader to an extent. So yeah, it's just well-rounded in my opinion. That's what I personally would choose to run. And lastly, we have the Invader, which I already know people will be mad about the fact that I even mentioned invaders. So let's just get into it. So I personally found 3 different jobs that the Invader can hold. Of course, there's just killing Guardians. Whether they have motes or it's Primeval phase, killing Guardians is a very important role for the Invader. There's also just harassing the other team, wasting their time, keeping them from picking up motes, making sure they don't damage the Primeval, whatever it is to harass them and just waste their time. That buys your team more time to pick up motes, bank them, or damage your Primeval. But I also found another role that often is overlooked, and that is stealing motes from the other side. And I explored that more with this than it has been in the game, but whether that's just running through their ads and picking up the motes after killing the enemies, or whatever. It's just more ways for your team to get motes thanks to the Invader. Let's start off with the most basic of these roles, which will be the Assassin. They're focused on killing Guardians, so at level 1, killing Guardians charges abilities faster. Whether you're invading or you kill an Invader, that's a Guardian kill, you regen abilities faster, and that's all your abilities. At level 2, while invading, your weapons will auto-reload. I think this would be comparable to the holster mod, but it would stack with that too, and hopefully holsters eventually stack also. And at level 3, if there is a blocker on the other side's bank, you gain a pulsing marker on enemies. It's a 1-second pulse every 5 seconds it happens. So if your invasion is a 20-second long invasion, you get 4 pulses, but you're already gone for the last one. Just to give you a quick heads up as to where people are. And then at tier 4, you gain True Sight for 3 seconds, and that will cost 5 motes. So if you have motes on you when you invade, you can pop them, 5 of them, and you'll get 3 seconds of True Sight. So you would be able to pop this 3 times while you're over. Yeah, it's just all geared towards finding enemies to kill, or just helping you to be able to be ready for every fight. Next up, we have the Harasser, which is basically to annoy the other team. So at level 1, you take less damage when you're near taken. So if you stand on their bank, next to their blockers, you're going to take a little bit less damage. And at level 2, damage you take is split with the blockers, which helps you tank even more damage. So that's helpful for you to just sit there on their bank while it siphons, giving you an advantage. At level 3, you lock down the bank when you're near it. This isn't like before in Gambit Prime when invaders could just lock down the bank by being on the other side. No, you do have to be near the bank for it to lock down, which fits into the general playstyle of the Harasser. And then at level 4, you gain a 50-point overshield that costs 5 motes to pop. It's not a huge overshield, but if you lose your original invasion overshield, it could be a nice thing to pop while you're trying to peek in for a snipe. Now, lastly, we have the one that I kind of molded. It's the bandit. They're focused on, again, harassing the other team, but by stealing moats and a few other things. So let's just get into how it works. At level 1, you can kill the adds on the enemy side, meaning you can kill them and pick up their moats and bring them to your side. But at level 2, killing guardians grants you 3 moats, similar to how when you kill an invader, they drop 3 moats. You can get 12 moats just from killing guardians if you get a 4K, which is great as an invader. So then, at level 3, you can siphon moats into your hands. This will be if you stand on top of the bank, you'll start siphoning moats into your inventory, preventing you from siphoning their entire bank. You'll only be able to take 15 moats before it locks you out from siphoning more. And then, at level 4, you can take ammo crates from both teams. So, in my version of Gambit, heavy ammo only spawns from crates, and in Gambit normally you can't take heavy ammo from the other team's crates. Well, if you have the tier 4 perk on Bandit, you can. You can take any ammo crate you want. And now, since I've given you an overview on all of the paths that invaders get, I'm gonna show you what I personally would do if I was building an invader. So as a level 1, I would pick from the bandit, because then I'd be able to kill adds on the other side, collect their moats. So if the other team doesn't have very many moats at the beginning of the game, I can invade without not being able to knock out very many moats, and without being there for the express reason to waste their time. I can kill their adds, which could hurt them in the long run, and if I'm able to keep the moats until I'm teleported back over to my team, I can bank them, giving us a bigger advantage over the other team. And then for my level 2, I'd pick from the assassin for auto reloading weapons. I like not having to reload my weapons, so personally that one really stands out. And then level 3, I would pick the harassers. Lock down the bank when you're near it. I mostly use snipers or linear fusion rifles when I'm playing Gambit and invading, so it's not the biggest thing in the world to have, but if I'm ever near the bank, that would be a great time to lock it down and maybe pull out an SMG for a little bit to just keep enemies away. If I'm running Nova Warp, I have a pocket shotgun as an ability. So, and then as a tier 4, I would have to pick from the harasser again. You gain a 50-point overshield, great to peek with snipers, just in case they shoot first. You might not die, so that's what I would go with personally. So yeah, that's about it for this video. I've showed you all of the perks I've made for each role, all their subtypes, what I would personally pick if I were playing the role. And in the comments down below, why don't you tell me what you would pick if you were playing each role? And also, while you're there, don't forget to follow my Twitter, my Twitch. I have a Discord server that you can join. Yeah. So yeah, that's about it for this video. I should have another Gambit video coming out soon about a primeval and a map idea. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you for coming in. See ya.